Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your true heel phenom, SP3. Ho, ho, ho. Happy holidays. We are back with a special year-end countdown as we run through the top 20 matches of 2020. You're gonna see year-end countdowns with our top 10 wrestlers of the year, with the top 10 best major shows of the year, our pay-per-views. But this one is a very special one because we are going through the top 20 from all over the wrestling world in the ring matches or cinematic matches that really stood out to myself and my colleague on this one. He is the host of Richie's Raw Recap. He is the babyface of all the true heels. He is the one, the only, the host of the Mr. Richie Moon show. He is Richie Moon.
Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you, SP3, for the great introduction. Yeah, man. Top 20 of the year, man. This has been an interesting year because, there's been empty arena matches, there's been cinematic matches, there's been matches with crowds in it, which seems like that was years ago. So this has been a varied year. So this is going to be a really interesting list, a good bunch from all over the wrestling world, as you said.
Of course, like we were gonna do a top 10 list here, but we had so many different matches that we wanted to include. We said, what the hell? We want 20 for 2020 in this countdown of the best matches of the year. This is a quick reminder to you guys watching. Give this video a thumbs up. Share this video with all your wrestling fans and friends. Of course, there is the iCard down at the bottom. You could press that to subscribe and the bell below that to press all for all notifications for all the great content right here on True Heel Heat. Over the holiday season, you're going to see videos just like this to help us make that push. We just got a few days to hit 1K. If we're not able to hit it before the end of 2020, we want to make sure January is that time where we can give away some free merch to you guys for hitting that 1K mark. So help us along with that journey. And of course, in the comment section below, let us know what matches you thought were the best of 2020, and if we missed out on your favorite or best match of 2020, let us know in the comment section below. So Richie, we're gonna start things off. We're not gonna go through honorable mentions. I'll wait till we get all the way to the top of the list before we do our number one, before we go through any honorable mentions that we may have missed. So let's start off with number 20. It is one of very recent shows that we saw, one of the very recent matches that we saw. This is from NXT back just a month ago in November. Io Shirai defending the NXT Women's Championship against Rhea Ripley. This was a hard-hitting clash. Rhea Ripley's ear bloodied after this one, and in the end, one of the best TV matches of the year from anywhere in professional wrestling. And in the end, it was Io Shirai with the over-the-moon salt to gain the victory and successfully defend the NXT Women's Championship. Io Shirai's had a hell of a year in consideration for our True Heels year-end awards as far as the Women's Wrestlers of the Year. What was your thoughts on this one?
NXT's women's division is one of the best in the world. This was a great match. I remember the ear just makes me a little queasy. But yeah, this was a great match, man. And Rhea Ripley, making that comeback, making that comeback. But Io Shirai just being a defended dominant champion as she's been basically for most of 2020. Yeah, it was a great match.
Awesome stuff there. We're going to have a few more TV matches to highlight, but that's definitely in the top echelon of them. Coming in at number 19 is from WWE Backlash 2020, the match known as the greatest wrestling match ever. It was the Rated R Superstar going one-on-one with Randy Orton. These two men had one of the best feuds of 2020. That is to be sure. There's no arguing or denying of that. But they did not really deliver at WrestleMania 36 with a long long, overdrawn out battle and brawl through the performance center in their last man standing match. So there was some expectations that they had to do better than that, but WWE put another obstacle in front of them, calling this match the greatest wrestling match ever. But what we saw was a beautiful love letter to the history of wrestling. You had the introduction from the voice of Howard Finkel. You had two all-time greats going at it, throwbacks and callbacks to some of their greatest rivals, with Randy Orton hitting a pedigree during this one. That was a really cool one. I think Edge hit an unprettier during this one as well.
Yes.
So these guys went back and forth for almost 45 minutes. In the end, Randy Orton used the low blow and the punt kick to gain the victory. What was your thoughts on this one?
They did something really unique that I've never seen when they did the collar and elbow tie-up in the beginning. They had the camera like right under, and I always remember that because I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, like that's so unique. And they had, I'm pretty sure that was maybe like one of Mike Chioda's maybe last refs jobs in WWE. It had the classic. They took it back to the classic blue and the bow tie. It
Yep.
was really awesome, and then Randy Orton just does the dastardly thing, breaks the gentleman's agreement, and then low blow and punt kick at the end. But yeah, it was a really good match. Not the greatest ever, but I love how they just went from, okay, this match was really pretty crappy, to you guys are gonna put on the greatest match ever.
Yes,
WWE.
you gotta love it. You couldn't have a great match in a last man standing match, but a regular straight up match is the greatest wrestling match ever. But they did have a great wrestling match, in my
Indeed,
opinion.
indeed,
Co-
indeed.
Coming in at number 18, we have another match from WWE, from WWE Survivor Series 2020. Probably one of the more recent matches on our list here, as it was champion versus champion. Drew McIntyre, the WWE champion, versus our tribal chief, the head of the table,
Hesitate.
the reigning Universal Champion himself, Roman Reigns. This one was a hard-hitting clash. This was more of a traditional WWE style main event. It built and built until we had like the heavy hits, the big moves, the big bombs going back and forth. We saw claymores, we saw spears. Drew McIntyre kicked out about 3 different spears attempts, and then in the end, it was Jey Uso who assisted his cousin and the head of the table to get the victory with the guillotine choke. What was your thoughts on this one? How did you think?
I love this match. The tribal chief was out there doing his thing. Oos. Every time I mention Roman Reigns, just gotta do this the Roman Reigns shoulder shrug. Oos. Don't talk about Oos. But yeah, this was a great match. I really want to see this rivalry continue somehow, some way down the line. Maybe WrestleMania. Now there's been some kind of talks. Things haven't been planned for WrestleMania. What a surprise. But I would love to see this. I would love to see something happen between Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre again. But this was a great match. This is a great match.
Yes, I really enjoyed this one. Definitely the match of the night from Survivor Series. A great match, and continued a hot streak for Drew McIntyre as well as Roman Reigns on WWE pay-per-views. Going back to WWE, but to the black and gold brand, we move on to number 17. It was Undisputed Era versus the Broserweights from NXT Takeover Portland, which feels like 10 years ago, even though it was just 10 months ago. But this was honestly one of the better takeover events. You had Johnny Gargano versus Finn Balor on this one. You had
Yeah.
Keith Lee versus Dominic Dijakovic. You had Adam Cole versus Tommaso Ciampa. But this match right here stole the show. One of the best tag team matches in NXT history. The Broserweights just created magic together. Matt Riddle being the comedy to Pete Dunne straight man, and then their chemistry with Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish just made for a very magnificent matchup. These guys just brought a whole bunch of energy to that Portland crowd. In the end, it was the Broserweights who gained the victory, not only becoming the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic winners to gain this opportunity, but becoming the NXT Tag Team Champions. What was your thoughts?
This was unfortunately, one of the casualties of the pandemic was the breakup of the Broserweights. They never really got to finish their story. We never got to see it fully fleshed out. But this match, oh my goodness. I mean, look at the 4 guys you got wrestling in this match. This was a really good match. That show was top to bottom just woo. Definitely one of the best shows of the year. Any one of those matches could have been in the top 20, except for, I know it's going to be a little controversial, Finn Balor versus Johnny Gargano. That was a really good match, but I really feel like it was kind of a glorified squash match.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
Hot take, man. Finn Balor just woo. Smoked Johnny Gargano.
Well, that was kind of the story of their feud, but I get where you're coming from. But like you said, like this tag team match just had a hot crowd to it. Great, 4 great wrestlers in there, and it just made for a marvelous matchup. And going back to February of 2020, which once again feels like years ago, we move over to Japan with our first match from New Japan Pro Wrestling. It was from New Beginning in Osaka. Jon Moxley defending the IWGP United States Championship against Minoru Suzuki. We talked about this match before we started recording. This was one where everybody was enamored with this matchup when it was just made, when they had their showdown at Wrestle Kingdom with Minoru Suzuki challenging Moxley, and then the interactions between these two men just knocking each other's face off with forearms. And this match was just hard hitting. It was brutal. It was everything you would want from a brawl in New Japan Pro Wrestling between the angry Japanese grandfather that is Minoru Suzuki and everyone's favorite purveyor of violence, who is Jon Moxley. One of Moxley's best matches of the entire year, and really one that he could say is one of the best matches of his career. What was your thoughts?
Man, when Jon Moxley first showed up in New Japan, that was one of the matches that I was like, I want to see Minoru Suzuki versus Jon Moxley. Like, I was telling you that a little bit before we went on air. And, you know, this was I feel like Jon Moxley's transition in New Japan just made him the character, the way he wrestled, his wrestling style. It really transformed, and I really became a fan of Jon Moxley's wrestling because before, when he was Dean Ambrose, I really wasn't a fan of his in-ring work. Before, I thought it was, honestly, I thought it was kind of lazy. But when he turned into Jon Moxley, turned up the violence, turned up his moveset, him and Minoru Suzuki, just forearms. That's my rating. If I had to give this match a rating star, just forearms, man. I love this match. Just everything you want. It ticked all my boxes, everything that I expected, and there was nothing wrong with that. I love this match, so.
Yes, we can definitely agree there. We move on to another match in the early part of this year. Number 15 is Tyler Bate versus Jordan Devlin from NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool. This was all the way back in January, but my oh my, this may be the underrated gem of 2020, because these two are two young performers who just went out there and stole the show in Blackpool in front of that hot UK crowd. Tyler Bate proving himself as the pound for pound the best performer on the NXT UK roster, but Jordan Devlin is so underrated. This guy is just so talented. He was the ace of Irish independent wrestling, and here was probably his masterpiece when it comes to NXT UK. This was his best match of his time there, and these two guys just showed out. What was your thoughts?
Man, honestly, you couldn't have said it any better, man. These two, I've always been a fan, even before they got to WWE. There was like some of the first UK guys that I clung on to. Just oh man, these guys are really, really good. And this match was just an example of that, man. They're the future. It's unfortunate. It's another effects of the pandemic. Unfortunately, the NXT UK has been, kind of shut down. And even though it's been back to weekly, it really lost a lot of momentum because of the pandemic. And yeah, this was an awesome, hard hitting. Once again, this ticked my boxes, everything I expected. And for me, nothing wrong with that. Great match.
Absolutely. You made me remember this one, and I thank you for that one. Coming in at number 14, we go back to WWE main roster from June 16, 2020. AJ Styles versus Danny O'Brien on WWE SmackDown, the finals of the Intercontinental Championship tournament. And my oh my, this was a in-ring technical wrestling clinic. These two guys are two of the greatest professional wrestlers of their generation. AJ Styles being the face of TNA, then going over and being one of the top stars in New Japan, coming to WWE and really showing himself as one of the greatest of the last decade. And Daniel Bryan, we know what he has done, overcoming the odds and being the face of ROH before being probably the greatest, one of the greatest baby faces in WWE history. And these guys just came into the ring and just put on a classic. This is probably, in my opinion, the best WWE TV match of 2020, and they just showed the importance of the Intercontinental title and really brought it back to the days of Mr. Perfect, Bret Hart, where it was a workhorse title, and they really put their stamp on the finals of this tournament. What was your thoughts?
Oh, man, remember those days when somebody won the Intercontinental Championship and they're just like, oh, man, that guy is probably going to be the next WWE champion sometime down the road. So, and, you know, it really, those two in those matches really brought that essence back, really brought that feeling back. Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, just like you said, two of the best of our generation, two of the best of, honestly, they're going to go down to two of the best of all time, really defined an era in their own ways. You know, AJ with the TNA and New Japan, Daniel Bryan, you know, he had his Ring of Honor days, but, you know, being the captain of the Yes Movement, one of the greatest baby faces of all time. This is just another great match. I hope that we get to see them. I hope we get to see them wrestle again. I know Daniel Bryan's been talking about, you know, retiring, even though I know that's not in the near future, but still, you know, another great rivalry between them would it would be such good shit now.
Absolutely, man. And we had to show love to this one. That match right there, honestly, in my opinion, is one of the main reasons we had to do a top 20 for this list. Coming in at number 13, we're gonna go a little cinematic here for the next two, and we're gonna highlight what, in my opinion, I feel this one deserved to be higher than our next one, but we will go with it. Number lucky 13, the Stadium Stampede match from AEW Double or Nothing, as it was the Elite, Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, the Young Bucks, and Matt Hardy versus the Inner Circle of Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, Jake Hager, and Santana and Ortiz. This one was outrageous. It pretty much had every single thing you would want out of a cinematic matchup. It had good action, it had an engaging story, and it just had over-the-top hijinks that you would want from something like this. We had a professional wrestling ring in the middle of a football field. We had Hangman Page riding onto the field with a horse. We had a bar fight. We had men almost getting drowned and going through different gimmicks in the meantime. We had Northern Light Suplex over 100 yards. We had someone getting chased by a golf cart, and then finally it was Kenny Omega with the one-winged angel from the top of the stadium to get the victory for the Elite and Matt Hardy. What was your thoughts on this one, Richie?
Super duper one-winged angel, man. This match was hilarious. Like you said, it was everything that you want in a cinematic match. Just for some people, it may not be their cup of tea. It might be a little bit too much comedy. But, you know, you also wrestle the Ninja Turtle in an Incredibles outfit. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you know, you know. And it's funny. I feel like when wrestling comedy is done right for wrestling fans, it's the most hilarious thing ever. And this was wrestling comedy done right. It was a perfect balance of wrestling comedy, like you said, storyline, engaging stuff, and then that finish, the super duper one-wing angel. It was good shit, pal. It was really, really good stuff, man. Really good stuff. And it doesn't. Well, I'll save that for the next. I'll save that for the next one.
Yes, you got to say something for the next one, because it was number 12 from WWE WrestleMania 36 Night 1. It was The Undertaker's final match, it seems, versus AJ Styles in the Boneyard match. This one was definitely over the top. This felt like a movie in a lot of ways. You had the Undertaker with the Metallica entrance on his motorcycle, his Holy Trinity character of the Undertaker, the American Badass, and Mark Calloway trying to get revenge on AJ Styles for talking trash about his family, and AJ Styles being the comedy heel, coming in in a casket, having his a druid henchman that was like the putties from the Power Rangers. He also had the Good Brothers, the OC by his side, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, and the Undertaker overcame it all. These two men not only delivered the good action, but they delivered some of the best trash talk that you will ever see in a cinematic matchup. And finally, it was the Undertaker who threw the Good Brothers off of a roof of a house, choke slammed AJ off that roof of the house, and then buried him alive to win the Boneyard match. What was your thoughts on this cinematic masterpiece in a lot of ways?
You know, this was I love the Holy Trinity character. You know, all three personas like coming together, and you know, I thought like, oh man, like most people, you know, this is a trend. This is a new trend, dude. You could do this for the next 5 years. But Undertaker himself has said, you know, he knows that the cinematic matches hide what he can't do in a ring anymore. So hopefully this is his last match. But man, it was such a bad-ass match, man. Like you said, some of the best trash talking. It really, you know, it felt like a movie. It sucked me in in ways just like it was a fight, man. I felt like, you know, it wasn't a wrestling match. It was a fight, man, between Mark Taker. I call him that. That's a new name. Just Mark Taker, the badass, versus AJ Styles, man. And I just love the Good Brothers in it, the Druids, the fire, the cinematics. It was everything. It was Undertaker's career kind of laid out, you know, with the spooky magic, with the American Badass, and with him, the man, and then him riding off into not the sunset, into the nightfall, man. I really hope that was his last match, and you know, it was good shit, pal. It was such good shit.
Definitely, this was great. You got to give credit to Bruce Pritchard, Michael Hayes, Triple H, kind of the people that had their brains on the outside of this whole match, kind of making it possible. But AJ Styles and The Undertaker definitely deserve credit for what was WWE's greatest cinematic match in history.
Indeed.
Coming in at number 11, we have from AEW Dynamite on February 26, 2020. It was Pac going one-on-one with Kenny Omega in a 30-minute Iron Man matchup. I myself, for Sportskeeda Wrestling, called this the greatest AEW Dynamite match of its 1 year, and my oh my, it deserves a lot of praise to be on our list here. These guys went out and showed themselves to be two of the best in-ring workers in the world across 30 minutes. You had Pac. This was a very historic match as well, because Pac got disqualified, which was the first disqualification in AEW history. He used that to get a fall on Kenny Omega. These guys then wrestled for another 10-15 minutes, with Pac hitting a 450 splash through a table to the outside on the floor on Omega. You had Kenny Omega with V triggers. In the end, they went the 30-minute time limit, tied 1-1, but then they got sudden death overtime where Kenny Omega hit the One Wing Angel to get the victory. This was just work rate personified. This was just stellar action for across 32 minutes that had a high crowd behind it. And like I said, I called it the greatest AEW Dynamite match in history, and in my opinion, the best TV match across professional wrestling of 2020. What was your thoughts, Richie?
My thoughts are that this was definitely one of the greatest TV matches across all of pro wrestling. I'm not sure where it took place, but I'm pretty sure it was in some vicinity to North Carolina. Man, this match was awesome. I think this is another one of those matches why we kind of had to make it a top 20, because it was really good. First Iron Man match, first DQ. I want to see Pac versus Omega again. We might actually get that. Actually, just thinking about it, we might get that somewhere down the line. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, we saw tease for it. They're now on different sides of the alignment. Omega is now a heel than he was a babyface at this time, and Pac is now a babyface as he was a heel when they had their Iron Man match. But definitely worth the praise and being on our top 20 list here. We are in the top 10 now. We got coming in at number 10. We move back to the WWE, and we have to highlight the ladies of the WWE. The in my opinion, across professional wrestling, another one where I can say this is the best of the best. This was the best women's matchup in North America for 2020 as Bayley went one-on-one with Sasha Banks at WWE Hell in a Cell 2020 inside the Devil's Playground, inside that 15-foot high steel structure. These ladies put on an innovative storytelling-based contest that kind of intertwined their 5 years of story ever since they had their iconic and the most impactful and influential women's match in North American history at TakeOver Brooklyn. They had their friendship where they bonded as the Boston Hug Connection, which then developed into the Golden Role Models. These two ladies was one of the best tag teams of 2020 across all three brands, but then the dissension was always simmering underneath, and it blew off when Bayley turned her back on Sasha Banks, which led into this match. Bayley bringing the steel chair that she broke Sasha Banks' heart with into play in this one, and Sasha turning it back on Bayley, locking her in the bank statement and stomping on the chair on her neck, and got the victory. This one just it's very hard to have an innovative and a very creative matchup when the Hell in a Cell has been around so long. But these two ladies were able to do it with some unique spots, using the table, using kendo sticks. They just used everything to the best of their advantage, and this was a great match. What was your thoughts, Richie?
This was one of the best feuds of the year. It was definitely one of the best stories in WWE. Like you said from the beginning, you always had that underlying tension, but they played it out, and I think I think they played it out well. That was one of the best. Sometimes WWE tells stories backwards. Had the beginning, middle, and end, and it played out, and they let it go out. They let those two have their blow off match at the match that we're talking about now, and they let it separate. And I think that's just especially for WWE. These two, what more can be said? Funny small story is that's actually how I started watching NXT. One of my good wrestling buddies was just like, dude, you need to see this match between Sasha Banks and Bayley. And he was talking about the NXT match in Brooklyn. I had never, I've never heard of them. I kind of heard about NXT. I heard about NXT. My perception of it was WWE, the stupid game show that they did. So that was like my introduction to NXT, watching those two. So to see it come around full circle in 2020, man, like one of the best matches, men or women, in 2020.
Yeah, definitely, and it had to be included in the top 10 for sure. We go back to WWE once again for number 9. Finn Balor versus Kyle O'Reilly for the NXT Championship from NXT TakeOver 31. My oh my, there was not many as physically intense matches in any part of professional wrestling as this one. These guys just went out there, they hit hard, they hit fast, they had a very well-built, well-paced matchup here, almost 30 minutes long. Kyle O'Reilly had a star-making performance in his first ever main event on a TakeOver, really showed why he is a future NXT champion and a future probably champion on the main roster of the WWE. Finn Balor, this was his paix resistance when it comes to his return to NXT. This was his best match since coming back to the brand, and really showed why he was one of the pillars back in the day and why he is a pioneer and a champion right now on the NXT brand. The NXT TakeOver 31 was one of the only TakeOver that we included in our top 10 major shows list. I agree with you. Portland was one of the better ones, but TakeOver 31 had to overcome the pandemic pandemic era, being in the Capitol Wrestling Center, a new arena for them, and they really set the stage for what has been kind of a rebirth for NXT, a new era. Even though we're still in the pandemic era, it feels like a new era in the CWC, and this matchup really set the tone for that, with Finn Balor getting the victory with the coup de grace in the end. What was your thoughts on this one?
It's just to sidetrack for a second. The CWC, I think, is one of the best looking, aesthetically pleasing things in wrestling. Because they have like a little bit of the live crowd, and they have like the TV screens on top with the fans on it. So that's really dope. But this match, man, I knew that Kyle O'Reilly was good, but this, for me, in my eyes, like you said, this is a star making performance. This really, for me, bumped Kyle O'Reilly's equity up in my eyes as a wrestler. Just like I used to seeing him as a tag team wrestler. Even in other promotions, he was mostly a tag team wrestler. So this is for me, this is like his first time to really shine as a singles competitor. And man, did he shine! They're doing the rematch in like 2 weeks on New Year's Evil, and I knew when he hit that knee, that run-up knee, that something was kind of off, because the look on Finn Balor's face, and, broke his jaw, busted his eardrum. This was a really physical, hard-hitting match. Both these guys really laid their shit in, and it was a good match, and I can't wait for the second one.
Absolutely. These guys are going to deliver once again in 2021 when they have a rematch on New Year's Evil, but we definitely had to put them in consideration here for one of the best matches of the year. In my eyes, on the proper NXT, the North American NXT, this was the best matchup that NXT had this year. Coming in at number 8, we go back to Japan for New Japan Pro Wrestling G1 Climax in Day 13. I've said repeatedly, the best night of the G1 Climax this year, and in the main event it was Kazuchika Okada going one-on-one with Shingo Takagi. Kazuchika Okada had a very interesting 2020. He started off the year losing the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, and then going on a very kind of a search of identity, where he didn't want to use the Rainmaker anymore. He wanted to use his new submission, the Cobra Clutch, known as the Money Clip, and he wanted to use it despite it not being as successful as the Rainmaker. And I think that culmination of that story came through here as he versed, in my opinion, the MVP of New Japan this year in Shingo Takagi. This man came over to New Japan last year from Dragon Gate, joining the Los Ingobernables de Japón. Started off as a super junior and came over to the heavyweight division in last year's G1. But this year's G1, he was really one of the standout performers, really having classic matches against Osprey, Ishii, and Ibushi. But his best match of the entire tournament was a first time ever match with Okada. In the end, Okada locked on the Money Clip and submitted, referee stoppage. Shingo never submitted, never tapped out, but passed out in the Money Clip for Okada to get the victory. What was your thoughts on this matchup, and what's your thoughts on Shingo Takagi and his role in New Japan?
Ever since Shingo Takagi came in last year, he has been like a hurricane, man. He's they made him a junior weight, which we all know is, really not the case. But he had some awesome matches. If anything, that actually helped his build, working with the small guys, because they have such incredible matches. And Shingo Takagi never disappoints, man. He delivers no matter who he's. Like you said, he had matches with Okada. Ibushi, Will Osprey, just any of those matches could have easily made the top 10 or 20. But this match in particular, we both agree, this match was just everything you want. And I can't wait for his big day is coming. Shingo Takagi's big day is coming. He's earned it. He wrestles his ass off. So his big day is coming.
Yeah, I think he should be in line for at least a title opportunity at the main straps, at the main dual gold for sure. Number 7 was from the same show. Like I said, G1 Climax 30. We had it in our top 10 list of the best major shows of the year. And the reason why was the match at number 8. And this one at number 7 was right before the match at number 8. It was Kota Ibushi going one-on-one with Minoru Suzuki. Minoru Suzuki had at 50% plus years old, this man had a career year, just delivering classic upon classic, whether it was against Shingo Takagi or Tomohiro Ishii. We talked about the match with Jon Moxley, but his best match of the year was here against Kota Ibushi. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter called it a one of the greatest live action fight scenes that he's ever seen in a professional wrestling ring, where these guys just went strike for strike, kick for kick, and it just brutalized each other for almost 20 minutes. It was just exhilarating, a thrilling contest where Ibushi got the victory with the Kamigoye knee. And this was, in my opinion, I also did an article on the G1 Climax best matches. This was the best match of the entire G1 Climax 30. Kota Ibushi won that tournament. But what was your thoughts on this matchup and Minoru Suzuki's 2020?
Minoru Suzuki is he's kind of an anomaly. I mean, at 50 years old, well, I do have this theory. When wrestlers hit after 40, they hit another like level of their prime. They just get into this groove where they're just a complete wrestler. Their character is complete, and maybe when they hit 50, it's another level to that, man. Because Minoru Suzuki is he just lays it in. His age does not. You don't think about that when you see him perform. It's just, that guy is brutal. That guy is vicious, and it doesn't matter who he's in the ring with, whether it's kind of a person that has more of a high flyer style, more of a technical wrestler. He just does his thing, and it's still amazing. This match was no exception. As we get closer and closer to, as we count down to number one, all of these matches are just like 5-star plus, in my opinion, 5-star plus in this crazy 2020 year that we had.
Yeah, there was a lot of 5-star perfect matches in this year. And majority of our top 10 I would rate at 5 stars, including coming in at number 6, we have FTR versus the Young Bucks from AEW Full Gear 2020. I think I went 4 3/4 on our roundtable, but that might be selling it short. This was a beautiful love letter to professional wrestling with two of the greatest tag teams of the past decade. These two teams have been building for this matchup for about 5 years, although the build-up just wasn't there, and I think that's the reason I didn't go 5 stars on our roundtable. The match itself was almost near perfection. You just had the hard-hitting, ground-based style of FTR versus the high-flying style of the Young Bucks. You had great nods to homages to some of the classic tag teams in professional wrestling history, like the Steiner Brothers, like the Hart Foundation, the Dudleys, the Hardys. In the end, it was FTR that went against their own mantra of all fists, no flips, and pulled out a 450 splash by Cash Wheeler, where the Young Bucks, Matt Jackson, moved out of the way and hit a super kick with no shoe on to get the victory and become the new AEW World Tag Team Champions. What was your thoughts on this one?
Man, this was literally a dream match, a match that's been in the build for years. The only disappointing thing about it, as you said, was the build was a little meh. It was a little confusing. Young Bucks kind of going heel, but not going heel. But whatever. When it got down to the match, the in-ring performance, I mean, it was everything that I expected. I really enjoyed this match. I didn't, upon second watch, because the first time I watched it, it was just, not that I was disappointed, but I didn't appreciate it enough the first time. But when I watched it the second time, I also was like, oh man, that's when I caught all the little nuances that I didn't catch the first time. And this was a great match, and we're definitely going to see FTR versus the Young Bucks again. And I'm pretty sure the second go round, in 2021, we'll probably be putting this back on the list, and it will be the proper build, and it'll get that 5-star that that absolutely should have got. So. Yeah.
I totally agree with you there. Like I said, that was probably the only thing that kept me from going 5-star with the build-up. But the match itself, like you said, it just had a lot of nuances, a lot of small things that you probably have to watch it more than once to really catch on to, which makes it a beautiful matchup. Coming in at number 5, we're in the top 5 now. We're back in Japan and back at the start of the year, January 5th. It was
years ago.
Yes, Kazuchika Okada once again on our list versus Tetsuya Naito from New Japan Pro Wrestling Wrestle Kingdom 14 Night 2. This was the culmination of the mini tournament to decide the first ever IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Champion, and this was a rivalry that had been building for almost 7 years. These two men were supposed to be in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom 8 in 2014, but the fans voted Tetsuya Naito out of that spot, choosing to go with Tanahashi and Nakamura, which led Naito on the journey to become the ungovernable one, the Los Ingobernables, and that started LIJ. He went over to Mexico, became a part of LIJ, brought it over to New Japan Pro Wrestling. He failed to defeat Okada at Wrestle Kingdom 12, and then 2 years later, he gets his biggest opportunity. He wanted to become the first ever dual gold champion, and in this match, he achieved that, hitting the Destino to get the victory on his career rival. But this was over 30 minutes of just fantastic professional wrestling between two of the best professional wrestlers in the world. This was voted Tokyo Sports Match of the Year due to the importance of this matchup being on the grand stage of Wrestle Kingdom. What was your thoughts on this one, Richie?
I love how New Japan builds these stories over years. It makes the ultimate payoff just that much sweeter. If you've been a loyal fan and been watching, it makes everything just pay off. And this was such a good payoff. I really love the concept of the little mini tournament that they had, because we all thought all four of those guys really deserve the claim to the title. I love the double. I love the double title. The fact that Tetsuya Naito finally became the double champion. And yeah, I think the payoff was worth it. Like you said, the storyline's been going on for years, and to finally beat Kota Ibushi, it was just poetic justice, and the way that New Japan tells stories.
Absolutely. They just tell it over a long period of time. A lot of people thought Okada would win, LOL, as we always say on True Hill Heat, but it was Naito who finally got the big win and made it make sense that he lost at Wrestle Kingdom 12 to win the bigger match here at Wrestle Kingdom 14. Coming in at number 4, we are back to WWE, but this time we are back with NXT UK, and we go to October 29th, 2020 with, in my opinion, the greatest empty arena matchup in professional wrestling history, as it was Volta going one-on-one with Ilya Dragunov for the NXT UK Championship. This was the most brutal, physically intense, hard-hitting clash probably in the history of WWE. Without the use of blood and weapons, I don't think any match was as brutal and hard-hitting than this one. You could see the scars and the bruises on the body of Ilya Dragunov due to the mean chops of Volta. Volta has proven himself to be one of the best professional wrestlers in the world over years of time, but Ilya Dragunov really had a star-making performance here. He really put his name on the map as a future NXT UK champion and possibly even a future WWE champion, because this guy is so young, 25, 26 years of age. But Volta once again proves himself why his look just doesn't really tell the whole story about how talented this guy is. In the end, he got the victory with the lariat, then the power bomb, and got the pin over Dragunov. What was your thoughts on this match that was rated by Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer newsletter 5 stars, and the only 5-star match in WWE this year?
I think I started hearing buzz about this on Instagram, and just hearing the wrestling community just buzz about this match. And I didn't have any Volta. I'm familiar with both Dragunov and Volta. Actually, we had a match earlier that was on the list with the Broserweights and having a brain fart with at the bar of the Broserweights. We were talking about Pete Dunne and excuse me, we were talking about Tyler Bate and Jordan Devlin. Volta is another one of the UK wrestlers that kind of caught my eye, and it kind of drew me into the UK scene with those with those malicious, those devastating chops that just literally like he leaves his handprint on your chest. And this match was no different, like you said. This was one of the most brutal matches. You could have easily threw this in a New Japan match and you wouldn't have been able to tell any difference. This match was brutal as AF, and I can agree with you when you said that this is one of the best empty, if not the best empty arena match of all time. You know, no weapons, but those guys looked like it was a TLC match, man. This was really hard hitting, and I had no expectations going into this match, and it just blew my mind. Like I was hitting up all my wrestling buddies, like you need to see this match yesterday. So definitely worthy of being in the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone wants to argue that it was the best match of the year, I can't honestly, take too much away from that. I can't say that you're wrong. I think that the only thing that the match was really missing was a crowd to it, but they made so much good use of that empty arena, and it made the hard-hitting action that much better because of the echoes of the chops in the empty arena. They made the most of it, and due to that obstacle of being in an empty arena, I could see someone arguing as the best match of the year. So we are in the top 3, Richie. Coming in at number 3, we have back to New Japan Pro Wrestling, Wrestle Kingdom 14, this time night 1 on January 4th. Man, that feels like years ago, but it was Will Osprey versus Hiromu Takahashi for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. Wow, this one is state of the art, just an outstanding, otherworldly type of matchup. These two men are two of the fastest professional wrestlers in the game, and this match had one of the greatest spots I've ever seen, or sequences I've ever seen in a professional wrestling match. All I will say is go out of your way to see this GIF. If you could just see it in GIF form, that's the perfect way to see it, as Will Ospreay does a sake special, which is a flips going outside of to the ring, where Hiromu catches him in a German suplex type of mover, gives him a German suplex that Ospreay lands on his feet. Ospreay runs at Hiromu gives him a belly to belly, but Ospreay goes through the ropes back into the ring to then do the sake special again, and this time hit Hiromu. It's just like, how did they think of these things? It's amazing, but the story going into this is why this match is in our top 3, why I think this is a 5-star match. Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer Newsletter gave it 5.25 stars, one of the first matches of the year that he gave the 5-star treatment to. Is because Hiromu Takahashi was coming back from almost 18 and a half months off due to a broken neck, came back. This was his first one-on-one matchup in New Japan Pro Wrestling against one of his career rivals in Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay had been a dominant IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion and brought the title into one of the biggest matches of the year, and in my opinion had a top 3 junior heavyweight matchup in New Japan in history. These guys were just otherworldly. This is just worth going out of your way to watch again, because January 4th feels like it was years ago, but Hiromu got the win with a new finisher, the Time Bomb 2, to once again become the junior heavyweight champion. Richie, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, I was so glad to see Hiromu be able to come back. That injury that he had was devastating. When you go back and watch the way he landed, like on his neck, it was terrible. So to see him come back, and to see him come back in not only not lose a step, but if anything, push it into another gear. He was just as fast, just as dangerous. This match was one of the ones I was definitely eagerly anticipating going into Wrestle Kingdom. And this was an awesome match, man. You did a great job at elaborating on that spot. Like you said, go out of your way to see that spot. I mean, the match it's more than just that sequence, but that one particular sequence was just like, like you said, how do you even think to even do something like that? But yeah, a really good match. definitely one of the best junior heavyweight matches. Now, one of the best matches I've seen from New Japan. Definitely go out of your way to see that. All these matches, once we start getting into the top 3s and top 5s, if you haven't seen them or you kind of vaguely remember them, go out of your way to see them because they're definitely worth a second watch.
Absolutely, third and fourth watch, if you will, as well. Being someone that was there live when Hiromu broke his neck in San Francisco, and I was in like the front row, so I knew from the moment he landed on that ring mat that he broke his neck. So to see him back, I was very happy. Hiromu Takahashi is one of my favorite wrestlers in the entire world, and this one was definitely a matchup that I will always remember. Coming in at number 2.
I just want to say that. Come on, man.
Daryl. Absolutely. Dear old Daryl.
Come on, man.
Coming in at number 2, we're going to go right back to New Japan Pro Wrestling, Wrestle Kingdom 14, Night 1. And this one was the main event after Hiromu and Osprey just had an outstanding matchup. After Naito and Jay White had a very emotionally driven, great contest right before these guys for the Intercontinental title, it was Okada and Ibushi's time to kind of set the stage and set up for a grand finale to set up for the following day in the Tokyo Dome. And my oh my, from the moment of the entrances, Kota Ibushi is intense during his entrance, but he's always likable, always with a smile on his face. But Okada had one of the greatest professional wrestling entrances in history. He had like a sword and like a silhouette. The silhouette came down, and this man was wearing a glow in the dark jacket. Oh my god, the jacket. Oh my god, it's just you. Hey, if you just love professional wrestling in its essence, that entrance alone will grab you and get you into this matchup before the bell even rings. But these two guys went out there. They had the New Japan Strong Style type of contest. This was an amazing conclusion, amazing main event to New Japan Pro Wrestling Wrestle Kingdom 14. This was on par with some of the greatest Wrestle Kingdom main events like Okada and Tanahashi and Omega. This is what New Japan Pro Wrestling always delivers at Wrestle Kingdom, and this is just a long line of awe-inspiring action, high octane throughout the entire time, over 30 minutes with some amazing sequences, reversals, counters. In the end, it was Okada with the Rainmaker getting the victory over Ibushi to move on to January 5th and verse Tetsuya Naito for the dual gold. What was your thoughts, Richie?
Man, it doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any bigger than Wrestle Kingdom and Kota Ibushi and Kazuchika Okada. These are two of the guys that, that when I first started watching New Japan that I really liked, that I really clung to, with the Kenny Omega and Okada match. And I was a bit of a latecomer to New Japan. So Wrestle Kingdom 12 was my first Wrestle Kingdom, and I remember when I first I woke up to literally Ibushi versus Cody, and I just remember Ibushi taking that crossroads from off the ring apron. But back to this match, this was everything you want, man. Hard hitting, athletic, like you said, reversals, finishers. Ultimately, the Rainmaker wins it out, and this was everything that I wanted, everything that I expected from these two, and that's why it's in our top. Number two. This
was a match I gave 5 stars to. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter gave it 5 3/4 stars, almost went the 6 stars treatment on this one. But there was one match he did go the 6-star treatment on. But before we get into that match, that is our number 1. Any honorable mentions that you want to mention, Richie? I will mention one before you go. WWE Royal Rumble 2020. The Royal Rumble match itself was one of the best in history. I consider Royal Rumble 1992 one of the best in history. I considered Royal Rumble 2001 one right up there with it. Royal Rumble 2018, the men's Royal Rumble matchup is right up there with that. But in the top 4 is the Royal Rumble 2020. You had Brock Lesnar with his amazing run in the first couple of entrants, really dominating and just bringing comedy to it, dancing to MVP's entrance, saying that Keith Lee was a big boy, and he just owned that first half of that Royal Rumble match. Then you had Drew McIntyre coming in, giving them the Claymore. He goes on to win the entire thing. Just a great babyface performance throughout the entire Royal Rumble matchup. But of course, it will always be remembered for that one of the moments of the year where Edge returned from this 9-year absence to come back to the WWE Hall of Famer himself. But any honorable mention that you want to mention?
I got a few honorable mentions. Proud and Powerful versus Best Friends in the street fight match. They had a specific name for it. Was it just a street fight match?
The parking lot fight.
Okay, parking fight. That was a really good match. Brody Lee versus Cody in the dog collar match. That was just a really good, brutal match. I thought Cody was going to turn a little bit of the heel turn, but we didn't get any of that. Thunder Rosa versus Serena Deebs. They recently just aired that match on NWA Primetime, and that was a really good match. Go out of your way to go see that match. Really hard hitting. And I think I might have one more in the form of... Nope. That match already made it. So, nope.
I would say one last one that I could mention was Hiromu Takahashi versus Dragon Lee from New Japan Pro Wrestling, New Beginning in Osaka. And once again, like I said, Hiromu's my favorite wrestler in the world, so I'm going to name a couple of Hiromu matches. Hiromu Takahashi versus El Desperado in the Best of the Super Juniors 27 finals, which probably... If it happened earlier in the year, like Super Juniors usually happen, I think it would have been in our top 20. But in my eyes, that was a 5-star matchup. Just a great contest with El Desperado removing his mask, and the crowd that's not supposed to make any noise with their mouths just gasping at the sight of this man who's been masked for so many years. And it's a dramatic ending that these guys had. Just a work of art, and just shows you how New Japan just creates a lot of emotions from his fans. But finally, Richie, we've come to the conclusion, sir. We've come to number 1 from... This was also voted for our best major show of 2020 from AEW Revolution. And I think this is the main reason why it was considered the best show of the year as well. Yeah. Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks. And I got to show you my shirt here. Yes, I am wearing the Elite shirt just for this matchup. It was number 1 because, a great matchup has a couple of particular things. It has a great, compelling build-up and storyline feud going into the matchup. It tells a tremendous story throughout the amount of time that it goes. It has to go a certain length. It has to go like 20, 30 some odd minutes to really captivate people for a long period of time. It has to have an amazing, stunning work rate from all the competitors involved. And something that we missed so much throughout 2020, it has to have a hot crowd. And this is why this matchup stands out above everything else, because not only did it captivate and engage the fans in attendance in Chicago, Illinois on February 29th, 2020, me and my roommate at my house watching this match literally got out of our seats for certain moments in this matchup. One in particular is when the Young Bucks hit the BTE trigger, which was the original move of the Golden Lovers, the Golden Trigger, and Kenny Omega kicks out at 1 out the disrespect of them using him and his lovers finishing move. Just that move in that moment in particular, if it didn't get your blood rushing and get you totally into the matchup, you didn't get the full gist of what this match meant. But this had an incredible build up. Hangman Page had built for months ever since failing to become the AEW World Champion. He felt like he wasn't a part of the Elite anymore. He felt disassociated from his best friends, and he wanted out of the group. But the Elite consistently made him a part of their group, asked on him to help them out during their problems. Him and Kenny Omega came together at the beginning of the year due to their own failures in the singles division and became the AEW World Tag Team Champions. The Young Bucks soon after became the number one contenders, and you had a great promo segment on the Grow Home show where the Young Bucks talked about how Hangman was just a jobber in ROH, and they dug him out. They made him join the Bullet Club, made him a part of the Elite, made him a star on being the Elite, so he couldn't just leave them. But the Hangman wanted to prove himself on his own and prove himself as his own man, and in this match he did. Just some of the sequences between him and Mac Jackson, even if you didn't see the promo segments, even if you didn't see the storyline, you got the story from the interactions between the two men, like Hangman spitting in the face of Matt Jackson and Matt Jackson showing a certain aggression throughout. You had Kenny Omega performing like the Kenny Omega of old, like the New Japan Kenny Omega. Just so many great sequences in this match, so many great counters, amazing work rate for almost 30 minutes. This was a simply incredible contest, an incredible match. Like I said before, Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer Newsletter gave it 6 stars. I gave it a 5-star classic. In the end, Hangman Page hit the buckshot lariat on Nick Jackson on the ramp, then Matt Jackson in the ring, and got the 1-2-3 to get the victory. Richie, what is your thoughts on this match?
And what was also amazing about that was after the victory, there was this subtle tease of Hangman on the apron that he was going to do the buckshot to Kenny Omega, and the storyline went a different way, but that storyline is essentially still going on, which is one of the best stories in all of wrestling. The journey, the trials and triumphs of Adam Hangman Page. This match was, like my tag team partner said it, man. It just all the things he said plus more. One of the best tag team matches, not even just in North America, in wrestling. Period. So much. If you knew the story, you appreciated this so much more. Like, you emphasize it. Even if you didn't, man, you can still go in it. And that's one of the things that AEW really does good. They give you the context of it, even if you don't know the full story like we do, because we dive into every little nook and cranny of it. But even if you don't know, even if you're more of a casual fan, they give you the sense, like you said, with Hangman spitting in his face, the aggressiveness. You tell the story. You don't have to know anything. You can just watch it for what it is and tell, and through their body language, through the match, they told the story. This was one of the best. I can't emphasize that anymore. This is one of the best matches that I've seen. I love the storytelling in this match. The Bucks are from where are they from? They're from
Rancho Cucamonga, California.
California, with Hangman Page being from I'm pretty sure he's from Virginia.
Yes.
Kenny Omega being from Winnipeg, but now he resides in North Carolina. It was one of the best matches of the year. That's why it's our number one. This was immediately. What the great thing about this was immediately after. A lot of the wrestling community was like, yeah, this is match of the year. We were already in February, and people were like, this is the best match of the year, best tag team match of the year. I think whenever the Elite gets to wrestle each other, it's always a spectacle. You look at, from, like you said, aforementioned Golden Lovers, you go back, I think it was 2 years ago in New Japan when they had that. Oh man, just a killer match. So all those callbacks, all those old moves, that's our number one.
Yeah, when people say that the Young Bucks don't know how to do storytelling or don't know ring psychology, you just know they aren't watching, and they're just haters, and they're just hating for no reason, because these guys just get the little things right, the little details that elevate a match and make it so superb. And this was one of those instances, in my opinion, the greatest wrestling tag team match that I've ever seen. So that is why it is number one on our list, and that has been the top 20 of 2020 for matches of the year across the professional wrestling business. Richie, tell the good people at home where they can find you on social media, as well as the True Heel Heat YouTube channel.
You can find me at TrueHeel_babyface on Instagram, the babyface of the True Heel bunch. You can find me at Richie's Recap on the YouTube page, and you can find me at The Richie Moon Show on Instagram, The Richie Moon Show on YouTube, and The Richie Moon Show on all podcast platforms.
Absolutely. Follow this man. This man knows his professional wrestling, and he's a great interviewer. You can see on his podcast all about that. This man is multi-talented, doing editing as well. This guy does it all, and that's why he is here with us on True Heel Heat. You could find me on Instagram at TrueHeel_EpicSP3. You can find me every single Wednesday on Wrestling Daily on the Wrestle2 YouTube channel with Alex McCarthy at 3 p.m. Eastern Time live, as well as 8 p.m. BST for all my UK folks every single Saturday on the True Heel Heat YouTube channel with our weekly podcast. So this has been our top 20 of 2020 for matches of the year. Like this video, share it with all your wrestling fans and friends. Push the iCard to subscribe, the bell below that to press all for all notifications for all the great content right here on True Heel Heat. And once again, let us know in the comments section what you thought of the top 20 of 2020, and if we missed your favorite or best match of the year. For Richie Moon, it is me, your True Heel Phenom SP3. We are signing off until